Hello guys, welcome back to LR Anime. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of BTTH Rebirth of Emperor Yang episode number 189 based on novel. So let's start. Entering the city, without any hesitation, Xiao Yan went straight to the center of Jinyao City. Although it is still more than 2 months away from the auction, it is undoubtedly of great benefit to Xiao Yan if we can first understand the situation in the auction house. After all, there are many strong people in Jinyao City. Even the number of strong people fighting against the emperor is no less than 10. If you can understand the situation of the auction house first, it will be of some benefit to Xiao Yan. Through the crowded crowd, Xiao Yan can see many array mags dressed in gold robes all the way. At the same time, there are many shops selling array plates on both sides of the street. However, from Xiao Yan's current perspective, most of these shops are just defective products, which can't get into Xiao Yan's eyes. Only the shops set up there in the city center, I'm afraid there will be real babies. Of course, Xiao Yan is not interested in the array. His purpose is simply to understand the situation in the city. Following the crowd, Xiao Yan walked through many streets all the way. At the same time, he found that the array mage seemed arrogant and terrible in Jinyao City. No matter who was in Jinyao City, he had to lower the array mage. Although Jinyao City was large, almost 1/3 of the people here were array mags, and the closer he was to the center of the city, Xiao Yan can see more clearly that there are many extremely powerful souls in the center of the city. Even some of them are difficult to compare with Xiao Yan. Needless to think about it, it is naturally the array mage whose soul power has reached level 4. No doubt, since Xiao Yang arrived in Yuanwu mainland, he has only seen one, that is, Chen Array, the leader of the refining sect. However, what Xiao Yang didn't expect is that there are array mags whose soul power is not weaker than Chen Array in Jinyao City. In this way, the so-called array mage association is also an extremely powerful force. As Xiao Yang expected, the western regions is not as simple as it seems. It is also a place where hidden dragons and crouching tigers lie. The so-called 4 major sects in the western regions are just forces on the surface. Those forces hidden in the dark can be called really terrible. With this in mind, Xiao Yang couldn't help feeling dignified. Then he remembered the Qin Yun he had just met at the gate of the city. Qin Yun, I'm afraid he's not from an ordinary force. He sighed secretly in his heart. Then, the low mood in Xiao Yang's heart dissipated rapidly. In turn, a hot color gradually appeared in his eyes, and a pair of palms under his sleeve robe gradually shook up. Although the western regions are hidden dragons and crouching tigers, they are extremely dangerous, but this is what Xiao Yang hopes for. The so-called those who are close to Zhu are red and those who are close to ink are black. Only by walking with the strong can they become strong. Ask Xiao Yang's way of the strong. What time did Xiao Yang not fight with the strong, and continue to experience and grow in the pain of blood and tears, and finally, only then can it grow into a towering giant tree. Meanwhile, on the other side, after entering the city, Qin Yun and the old man in black who followed him walked all the way to a less populated lane in the city. On the way, the old man in black who had been silent finally spoke at this moment. Young lord, the young man named Xiao Yang is unusual. The hoarse voice came from the mouth of the old man in black robe, but Qin Yun in front of him couldn't help pausing, turned around, looked at the former in surprise, and said with a joking smile. If uncle he can say this, Xiao Yang must be extraordinary. Little master, fallacious praise. The old man in black bowed respectfully. Immediately, they continued to walk towards the deep part of the roadway. At the same time, the old man in black continued to speak. The boy's soul power has reached level 3, but he is not a matrix mage. Therefore, he must be a herbalist. Herbalist. Hearing the speech, Qin Yun could not help but frown, but he didn't say much and continued to listen. A medicine refiner can not only improve his medicine refining skills to such an extent, but also improve his fighting spirit. This kind of person is rare in the mainland. It can be imagined that if there is no accident, this son will certainly become a strong generation in the future. What do you say about the strong compared to the heaven and the supreme man? Qin Yun asked softly as he walked. Only strong, not weak. The old man in black robe said solemnly. Step on. Qin Yun stepped and turned around in an instant. His eyes were as sharp as a sword, staring at the old man in black robe. The latter saw this, his face suddenly changed, and quickly bent down deeply to Qin Yun, his mind trembling. Qin Yun was silent. They stood quietly in such a strange posture, and no one moved first. Until after more than 10 breaths. Ha ha ha, good. Suddenly, Qin Yun burst out laughing, and the heart of the person in front of him was suddenly relaxed. Ha ha, good, good. In that case, I Qin Yun will make a deal with this friend. How can I miss Qin Yun if I can become a great power in the future? Yang He, go and tell Qi Ming and Xiao Yang of the Array Mage Association now that no one moves, who moves and who dies. The voice fell. Before Yang He could reply, Qin Yun walked forward with a smile, while Yang He frowned tightly and looked up at Qin Yun, who went straight. There was a look of surprise in his old eyes, but in the end, he shook his head reluctantly, didn't think much anymore, and once he turned his body, he wanted to go to the center of the city. Besides, bring back the single manager. Just as Yang He turned around, Qin Yun's voice came again. Suddenly, Yang He's eyes suddenly coagulated. In his heart, he breathed a long sigh of relief. This is the Qin Yun he has really seen. When Yang He left far away, Qin Yun in the roadway smiled on his laughing face, which gradually converged until it disappeared, and finally turned into a cold. On the other hand, Xiao Yang also followed the flow of people and had come to the center of Jinyaro City. Different from Xiao Yang's imagination, there is no huge building complex here. On the contrary, it is a huge square. At a glance, in the center of the square, there is a huge black stone column. The stone column is nearly 10 feet tall and more than 2 meters in diameter. Countless runes and seal characters are densely engraved on it. Golden lights are emanating from it and gradually spreading. Finally, a golden barrier is condensed over the Jinyaro city. So it seems that this array is not only the symbols and seals on the city wall, but also the stone pillars in the center of the city, which is the key of the whole array. Standing on the huge square, Xiao Yang stared at the black stone pillar. For a moment, he was a little distracted. Suddenly, Xiao Yang suddenly returned to his mind, and his eyes quickly swept over the passers-by around him, especially cautious. Looking at the stone pillar again, Xiao Yang glanced slowly. Then, Xiao Yang found that no one approached it within 10 feet around the stone pillar, or no one dared to approach it. Around the pillar, it was like a Jedi that no one could step into. What's going on? Aware of this, Xiao Yang's face was surprised. Just when Xiao Yang was suspicious, he saw that several array mags in the field actually looked at him, and there was a trace of hostility. A little surprised in his heart, Xiao Yang couldn't help stepping away and walking towards the place with more people. Only then did he avoid the eyes of those people. Those people who were staring at him just now were the third-order array mags. Although he successfully avoided those people, the black stone pillar made Xiao Yang more curious. It seemed that there was something special about the stone pillar. With the help of the powerful soul power, Xiao Yang walked all the way through the flow of people and went in the direction of the auction house. Along the way, there were several array mags who gathered together towards Xiao Yang's position, whether intentionally or unintentionally. While walking towards the auction house, Xiao Yang listened to the news from the crowd. Only then did he understand that almost the whole city already knew that Fusang flowers would appear at the auction. So it seems that Xiao Yang has some hindsight. He has been looking forward to it for so long. When he arrived here, he was already well known. When he thought about it, Xiao Yang couldn't help shaking his head and sighing and laughing. In that case, I'm afraid the ring is not a special thing at all, but a card played by the auction house to publicize the auction. The purpose is to maximize the benefits of the auction. Although this kind of propaganda makes Xiao Yang feel a little caught off guard, it has to be said that because of this, the effect will be so remarkable. Not to mention anything else, just the name of Fusang flower is enough to win the attention of most people. Now there are 2.5 months before the beginning of the auction, but in today's Jinyaro city, there are no less than 10 strong people fighting against the emperor. These people are all aimed at Fusang flower. Whenever someone talks about Fuzanghua, most people's faces will overflow with fanaticism. The name of the latter is equally powerful even in the barren land of the whole continent. I'm afraid the auction of Jinyaocheng will attract the attention of many strong people in the western regions. After all, Fusang flower can increase extremely huge soul power for the devourer. This effect can't be obtained by cultivation alone. After a short moment, Xiao Yan came to the auction house. The huge auction house is located in the northeast corner of the square. It covers a huge area and has magnificent buildings. Even compared with the Tianyun auction house in Yangcheng, it is no less impressive. When he came to the entrance of the auction house, Xiao Yang looked at the two soldiers in armor standing here. Just about to approach, suddenly some figures in gold robes approached quickly. In a twinkling of an eye, Xiao Yang was surrounded. What happened suddenly in front of the auction house also made many people cast their eyes, and Xiao Yang, who was surrounded, couldn't help but frown slightly. Just now he was only looking at the auction house in front of him, but he didn't notice the approach of these people. His eyes quickly flashed over several people around him. Then Xiao Yang fixed his eyes on a young man in gold robe, who was one of the 5 second-order array mags who had been blown away by him at the gate of the city. Seeing this person, Xiao Yang's heart immediately understood the truth of the matter. It seems that it should be the guy in front of him. In order to revenge just now, he asked someone to come. It seems a little troublesome. Xiao Yang smiled faintly, and the steps he had stepped forward also fell down again. His body was fixed in place, his eyes turned, and swept over these people again. There are 7 people in total, 3 third-order array mags, and the other 4, including the young man, there are 4 second-order array mags. As for their accomplishments, except for 2 3-star fighting emperors, the rest are at the level of 9-star and half emperors. Seeing the 4 people around him, Xiao Yang smiled and nodded. This Xingyao city is indeed the territory of the array mage. Yes, he doesn't want to cause trouble, but since the other party insists on coming to the door, Xiao Yang also takes this opportunity to make an example of others, so as to eliminate more trouble. The menacing 7 people also attracted the attention of passers-by around them. Immediately, there was a burst of exclamation in the surrounding crowd. Hey, isn't this Liu Meng? This guy is a 3-star fighting emperor. It's said that he successfully entered the ranks of third-order array mags not long ago. He's very aggressive in this city recently. Yes, many people have suffered from this guy recently. Who calls them third-order array mags? They dare to be angry but dare not speak. But what are they doing? Are they going to trouble others again? Cut, haven't you heard that Liu Quan was beaten just now at the gate of the city? It seems that it was a young man in black. Look at the boy's appearance, it should be him. He's right. Now he can suffer. Tut tut, Jin Yaocheng is the territory of the array mage. He dares to hurt the array mage here. This boy has suffered. Among the merciful eyes of the people around, 7 people finally came to Xiao Yang. They looked at Xiao Yang with hate, and their faces showed a cruel look. Boy, did you hurt him just now? A strong man in gold robe, who was the first, whispered to Xiao Yang. Standing beside him was the second-order array mage called Liu Quan by the passers-by. He was also the person who was injured by Xiao Yang before. It's me. Xiao Yang didn't lift his head and said faintly, Smelly boy, in this Jinyao city, you dare to rob the array mage. It's really impatient. Seeing Xiao Yang's indifference, the big man's face suddenly showed a fierce color. The heart read a move, the terrible soul power immediately poured out, and quickly condensed into an invisible hand, and grabbed it at Xiao Yang. The powerful soul force swarmed out of the strong man's body, quickly condensed into an invisible hand in the void in front of him, and grabbed Xiao Yang. Hum. In the face of the latter's attack, Xiao Yang uttered a cold hum. He took half a step forward and thought a little. The vast soul power in the center of his eyebrows immediately poured out wildly, forming a soul storm, which collided with the oncoming soul hand. Bang! As soon as the blow fell, the invisible storm swept away from between the 2 people. Their bodies shook together. Xiao Yang's face changed slightly, frowned and withdrew half a step back. At the same time, the strong man also withdrew 5 steps back one after another. This strong man is only a third-order array mage who broke through not long ago, and Xiao Yang's soul power reached the level of a third-order herbalist as early as a few years ago. After several years of accumulation, Xiao Yang has reached the level of a third-order senior herbalist by virtue of his soul power alone. Even if he is only a short distance from the fourth-order herbalist, there is no comparability between the two. It is lucky for a strong man to be able to push Xiao Yang back half a step. Seeing that the big man was actually retreated by Xiao Yanjin, several people around him couldn't help showing a surprised expression on their faces. Even the strong man himself, the expression on his face became dignified. Although the person in front of him looks young, the soul power is far above him. No wonder he can easily break the joint efforts of their 5 second-order array mags. At such an age, he can have such a powerful soul power, and at the same time, the 7 array mags cannot change their face. He is so calm and calm. In this way, he is not strong. I'm afraid he has a strong influence background behind him. Once he thought about these thoughts, the big man couldn't help but put away the killing intention in his heart. He knew that in Jinyao City, although the array mage was protected for the rules here, once they offended some big forces, even Shangfeng couldn't save them. Therefore, in front of such people, he must first understand his background. Boy, I Liu Meng don't kill nobody. I say, who are you and where do you come from? Only in this way can you deserve to die in my hands. Don't try. If you want to kill me, just come directly. I'm alone and have no power behind me, so you don't have to worry that someone will trouble you if you kill me. Hearing the speech, Xiao Yang seemed to see the original intention of the former, and a sneer arose from the corners of his mouth. As soon as Xiao Yang's words fell, there was a burst of laughter among the passers-by around him. At the same time, Xiao Yang's 7 faces also became iron blue in the sarcasm. The muscles at the corners of his mouth couldn't help a violent twitch. The murderous intention in his eyes gushed out at this moment without any concealment. Buzz! Liu Meng's body suddenly moved, his fighting spirit covered his body surface, his body rotated in mid-air, swung his right leg, and fiercely chopped down at Xiao Yang from top to bottom. The fierce wind tore the void to pieces. The trouser tube on the right leg was close to the skin on the big man's leg at this moment, and the whole trouser tube became as hard as steel at this moment. Liu Meng's harsh attitude made the voice of many people around him exclaim. This guy really acted as a kind of overbearing person in simultaneous interpreting. However, in the face of Liu Meng's fierce and domineering offensive, Xiao Yang didn't even bother to lift his eyes. His right hand slowly lifted, and his sleeve robe moved with the Buddha. He bumped lightly with Liu Meng's right leg. Immediately, there was a low sonic boom. Then, a strong wind spread out like ripples, and Liu Meng's face changed suddenly at this moment. His body was out of control and stepped back for dozens of steps. Looking back, the big man immediately shot his eyes at Xiao Yang, and his face was very dignified. This guy is also a strong fighter. The short collision immediately exposed Xiao Yang's strength. At present, several other array mags and more passers-by around also cast shocked eyes on Xiao Yang. There are many strong fighting emperors in the western regions, but I'm afraid they can't find a few even if they search the whole western regions at this age. Damn it. I'm really careless this time. This boy's soul power is not only stronger than me, but also his cultivation is higher than me. The big man thought in fear, but then, when he turned his head, his eyes fell on several array mags around him. Immediately, the corners of the big man's mouth aroused a ferocious smile. Even if your soul power is stronger than me, even if you are a strong fighter, I don't believe it. Can you resist the 7 array mags alone? The big man drank coldly, and his eyes quickly flashed over several array mags around him. He saw that the 6 people should nod heavily, look at each other, and then move their minds. The powerful soul power surged out from the 7 people's bodies like a volcanic eruption, intertwined with each other, and quickly condensed into an invisible net. He surrounded Xiao Yang from top to bottom. Seeing this scene, Xiao Yang couldn't help frowning slightly. Although his combat power was above them, there were 3 third-order array mags here after all. Such power can't be underestimated. However, in order to avoid more trouble, Xiao Yang can only choose to make a quick decision. As soon as I thought about this in my heart, the invisible fire immediately lingered in Xiao Yang's dark eyes. At the moment of Xiao Yang's rise, The hot flame suddenly gushed out of Xiao Yang's body, bringing an invisible heat wave and spreading around Xiao Yang's body. This flame is the falling heart. Falling heart inflammation is known as the enemy of the soul. It has falling heart inflammation. Even if there are 3/3 order array mags in front of you, it is not difficult to solve these guys quickly with the overbearing of falling heart inflammation and Xiao Yang's own strength. What is this? Feeling the invisible heat wave, some of the 7 array mags couldn't help crying out. From the heat wave, he just felt his soul trembling violently. However, just when such a frightened idea just came into being in the hearts of several people, Xiao Yang quickly controlled the falling Xinyan. With a big hand, he turned into an invisible flame giant ruler and fiercely chopped it up at the moment when the soul net fell. The invisible giant ruler of flame was wielded from bottom to top. At the moment when the big net fell, it collided with it. Hiss, hiss. The violent collision sound in the imagination did not come out, but a hissing sound like the blending of ice and fire. At the same time, the void in which the two touched was also suddenly distorted. Then, in a dull explosion, the void above Xiao Yang's head suddenly burst. As the dull explosion spread, Xiao Yang stood in place with his face unchanged. With a slight tremor in his palm, the invisible flame ruler in his hand dispersed automatically. Almost at the same time, the 7 array mags around them turned pale, their bodies were paralyzed and uncontrollable, and the pain came from the depths of their minds. The soul power of several people was vulnerable to the invisible flame. The terrible flame quickly burned their souls with absolute power. If they hadn't taken back the remaining soul power in time just now, I'm afraid it would be the collision of these short breaths, which would have seriously damaged the origin of their souls. At that time, I'm afraid even the level of their mags will be reduced. If one doesn't do well, it may even leave them irreparable sequelae. When they thought about this, the 7 people were even more frightened. They looked at the black-robed youth in front of them in horror. They used both hands and feet, and their body involuntarily retreated backward. They didn't think that it would be difficult for them to become the opponent of the people in front of them with the strength of the 7 people. In addition, even those passers-by around at the moment could not help but show a shocked look on their faces. Their eyes focused on the black-robed youth in the presence. For a time, Xiao Yang became the focus of everyone's eyes. Ignoring the sight from the passers-by, Xiao Yang looked at the strong man with fierce eyes. In the confrontation just now, the strong man invested the most soul power, which caused the most serious damage to his soul among the 7 people at the moment. However, this did not affect Xiao Yang's mind to kill him. Feel the killing intention in Xiao Yang's eyes, and the look on the man's face full of fear can't help changing again. He forced his body back, stared at Xiao Yang in horror, and shouted, "What do you want to do? This is Jin Yaocheng, the territory of the Array Mage Association. I didn't want to cause trouble, but since you insist on asking me for trouble, I won't be polite to you. Even if you are a Matrix Mage, I'll kill you." Xiao Yang's face was cold. As he spoke, he stepped forward slowly. He saw that he had come to the strong man. His palm was raised, and the forest white flame gushed out of his palm, quickly covering Xiao Yang's whole palm. Seeing this scene, the strong man immediately felt frightened. At present, he could no longer care about the origin of his soul and endured the sharp pain from the depths of his soul. The big man climbed up hard and wanted to escape to the crowd. Seeing that this guy wanted to escape, Xiao Yang naturally wouldn't give him this opportunity. He clenched his 5 fingers and wanted to punch the big man. At this time, a powerful voice came suddenly at the entrance of the auction house. "Keep people under my little brother." The thick voice of words came like a heavy thunder. The special power contained in the voice shocked the soul. It is conceivable that it must be a soul-fighting skill. However, despite the obstruction of the voice, Xiao Yang didn't mean to stop. With his powerful soul power, the latter directly ignored the soul skill. At the same time, his fist didn't stop at all. Sen's white flame fist turned into a fire mass in the void, and roared straight at the back of the man in front of him. Passing through the invisible void, there are dark space cracks. Shua. Ling Lai's breaking the air suddenly sounded. The person who made the sound just now rushed towards the forest white flame with a low positive color, intending to stop it. However, No matter how fast the man is, he is still one step behind in the end. When the figure came to the Flamelight group, Sen Whitefire group happened to hit the big man hard. Suddenly, the sad cry rose to the sky, and Sen Whitefire light also rose and reflected in the eyes of the figure. For a time, everyone in the field was silent, and their eyes fell on the figure who appeared at the moment like a spotlight. Then, a surprised sound of sucking cold air sounded. At the moment, the latter also frowned and looked at Xiao Yang helplessly. The distance between them was only a few feet. They looked at each other. Xiao Yang's eyes were as calm as water, and the latter was helpless. At present, things have developed into such a result. Even if he was dissatisfied, what can he do? It's obviously not cost-effective to offend a strong fighting emperor for the sake of a dead man. The shadow's eyes swept all over Xiao Yang's body. Immediately, a look of surprise flashed through his bright eyes. He had not seen such a young strong man fighting the emperor, but he should have heard of such people in the western regions, but the people in front of him gave him a complete sense of strangeness. This has to make people reconsider the seriousness of the matter. When the figure looked at Xiao Yang, the latter also swept his eyes from the figure at the moment. At the moment, a middle-aged man appeared in front of Xiao Yang. He was dressed in a purple round neck robe, square face, beard, sword eyebrows, and stars. He was quite heroic, especially the smell that spilled from his body made Xiao Yang feel solemn. I'm afraid the cultivation of the person in front of me will not be inferior to that of the patriarch of the 4 major sects. This is also a powerful 8-star duty. Jin Yarocheng is really a hidden dragon and crouching tiger. I'm Wu Gang, the vice president of this auction store. Dare you ask Mr. Taboo? After a little hesitation, Wu Gang politely arched his hand at Xiao Yang and said, I'm Xiao Yang. Seeing the latter, Xiao Yang also bowed his hands and hugged his fist politely. From the latter's face, he didn't mean to investigate the matter just now, which saved Xiao Yang a lot of trouble. Do you know who he is, sir? Although Wu Gang did not investigate Liu Mengji's death, he could not help but bring the topic to this matter. After all, this man died at the door of his auction house, but their auction house did not make any action, which would inevitably be annoyed by the group of people of the Array Mage Association. Third Order Array Mage, member of Array Mage Association. Xiao Yang smiled, and there was no fear in his smile. Seeing Xiao Yang's appearance, Wu Gang couldn't help but be slightly stunned. From Xiao Yang's soul power and strange fire, Wu Gang can see that he is a herbalist, but after all, this is Jin Yarocheng, the territory of Array Mage. It's amazing that he can say such words so easily. However, just as Wu Gang was about to speak again, several figures in gold robes came quickly in the distant crowd. When they saw this, they couldn't help frowning slightly. Then Wu Gang quickly made an invitation gesture to Xiao Yang. When the group of people arrived in the future, they invited Xiao Yang into the auction house. In the auction house in Jinyaocheng, Wu Gangjing led Xiao Yang to the inside of the auction house. President Wu, you brought me into the auction house. What about the guys outside? Xiao Yang frowned. Although he didn't want to cause trouble, he wasn't afraid of it. This happened because of him. Since the people of the Array Mage Association came to the door, it should be solved by him. Now he enters the auction house. What about the things outside? Hihi, sir, don't worry. Although those guys are domineering, they are just a few minions. They won't do anything yet. The people in our auction house will naturally send them away. Wu Gang smiled brightly and replied to Xiao Yang. Hearing this, Xiao Yang was relieved. He arched his hand at Wu Gang in front of him and said with gratitude, in that case, thank you, Mr. Wu. Ha ha, it doesn't hurt. It's just a piece of cake. Wu Gang chuckled, and then he stopped talking. With Xiao Yang, he set his heavy feet on the floor under his feet and made a loud landing sound. They walked slowly towards the depths of the auction house. The two men walked forward. Xiao Yang looked around. The surrounding space was dark and people couldn't see what existed. Therefore, they didn't take a few steps. 2 night pearls were embedded in the columns on both sides, emitting soft white light to light up the channel. Xiao Yang's eyes swept from the dark space on both sides, and a surprised color flashed in his eyes. These darkness didn't seem to be caused by the dim light, it was man-made. There is a huge space in the auction house. Looking around, there are beams and columns that go directly to the dome to support the whole auction house. In the distance of Xiao Yang's line of sight, you can barely see a few rays of sunshine. In addition, it is a darkness. Strangely, that darkness seems to be creeping slowly. When you look carefully, Xiao Yang found that it was just a black curtain. The open-air auction house seems to be shrouded in a huge curtain. Before it is opened, the curtain will never be opened easily. Looking back, Xiao Yang looked not far ahead. There were vertical and horizontal corridors between the beams and columns, and there would be an intersection every other section. The whole corridor was circular and went straight to the darkness. It seemed to form an arc from a distance. Xiao Yang thinks that the space in the auction house should be the same as most auction houses. They are round, and those corridors are built around the auction house in the center. As for the function, naturally only the people in the auction house know. Haha, by the way, I saw Mr. standing in front of the auction house. I thought you should have come to our auction house. In that case, if Mr. has any questions, just ask, I must know everything. Just when they were silent, Wu Gang suddenly laughed and opened his mouth, seemingly deliberately to break the silent atmosphere. Hearing the speech, Xiao Yang raised his eyebrows and said, "In fact, in the next auction, I hope to know what will happen to the auction in 2 months. Sir, do you want to ask about Fuzhanghua?" Wu Gang grinned and showed a cunning smile, while Xiao Yang shrugged non-committally. He hardly needed to say more about this reason. There should be more than a few people who want to inquire about it recently. Haha, it seems that Mr. Xiao Yang should get the ring, too. Wu Gang smiled and a flash of pure light flashed from the bottom of his eyes. Being able to get the ring shows that the people in front of them are either very rich or powerful, but no matter which of these two is undoubtedly of great benefit to their auction. The reason why they put the information about Fusang flowers into those rings and spread them out is to enable those who have real strength to compete with each other. Take the essence and remove the dross. In this way, the people who can finally get those rings dare not say all, but at least most of them must be powerful people with inside information. At that time, with these people participating in the auction, it will undoubtedly show the value of the items at the auction to the greatest extent. Of course, the profit is also an extremely huge number. Don't worry, sir, since we have spread such a big net, the news of Fuzhanghua will never be wrong. After all, the publicity we did in this auction house is really big. Many people in the western regions are attracted. Even if this is Jinyaocheng, no one dares to make such a big joke. I naturally believe this, but my only curiosity is, can you really be sure that the flower is Fusang? Xiao Yang paused, frowned and looked at Wu Gang in front of him. Whether the fusarium flower is true or false has dispelled all doubts since he arrived at Jinyaocheng, but now the only thing that makes him doubt is that this fusarium flower is really the director of Fusarium Ancient Spirit Tree, and that fusarium flower? After all, as Xiao Yang knows, hibiscus flowers usually have 5 petals. I have never heard that hibiscus flowers will grow 6 petals. From this point alone, it is enough to doubt the authenticity of this hibiscus flower. Hearing Xiao Yang's words, Rao hesitated with Wu Gang's temperament. No one seems to have asked him this question recently, and this is exactly what he suspected. As far as he knows, the 6-petaled hibiscus has never appeared on the mainland in history, and because of this, the owner of this hibiscus will auction it. Otherwise, who would be willing to auction the hibiscus flowers growing from the hibiscus ancient spirit tree? Mr. Xiao Yang, to tell you the truth, your question is exactly what we suspect. After all, Fusang flower is a strange flower between heaven and earth. Its value is immeasurable. However, according to historical records, Fusang flower with 6 petals has never appeared in the mainland, but nevertheless, according to the inspection of many of our appraisal masters, this Fusang flower is actually a hibiscus flower growing from the ancient spirit tree of hibiscus. Wu Gang frowned. Although many masters were mentioned in his words, he still couldn't believe it in the end, but now, an invisible storm caused by Fusang flower is slowly taking shape in the western wasteland. Who would care whether it has 6 petals or not? Hearing Wu Gang's words, Xiao Yang also frowned and meditated for a long time. From Wu Gang's words, he can hear that the former did not lie, and even they doubt the authenticity of Fuzhanghua, But now it is closer and closer to the beginning of the auction, and all this has reached an irreparable situation. Therefore, whether this Fusang flower is true or false, at present, we can only follow the development of the situation step by step. This video will end H.